All right, I'm going to start. Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa, and I want to welcome you to tonight's webinar entitled Solve Autism Behavior with Melissa. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. I am Melissa, and I will be doing tonight's presentation. Following our presentation, we will be doing live question and answer. So throughout the presentation, if you do have a question or a comment, you can feel free to post it in the Q&A or the chat box. Otherwise, at the end of the presentation, I will be doing live Q&A. So please hold on, wait, stick around till the Q&A and ask your questions. Now, everybody who stays around till the Q&A section, you're all going to get the newest copy of the guide, okay? But everybody who sticks around till the question and answer period, your names will be automatically entered into a raffle. And the winner of that raffle will be getting a 30-minute coaching session with Michelle. That is an awesome prize. So definitely stick around till the end and you will be automatically entered into that raffle. That is definitely a valuable prize. So stick around, please. If not for my advice, at least for the opportunity to win that prize. So, disclaimer, let's start with this. All of the information in my workshops are not intended to serve as a substitute for consultation with medical and behavioral professionals. Only qualified professionals who know and work with a child on an ongoing basis can adequately assess and supervise a child's program. I always recommend including a board-certified behavior analyst on a child or client's team. This is especially important if a child is in danger of hurting themselves or others.
I remember when I got pregnant with my daughter, I felt so grateful and so blessed. And my life up until that point had been pretty rocky. I'd had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And I finally thought that I was turning a corner and God was blessing me with this beautiful gift of a child. And I just, yes, finally something was going in my way. And then when she was born, she was just absolutely perfect. I had all of these dreams and expectations for her. I thought of all the things that I thought she was going to do. Yeah, good girl. Right after her first birthday, I started to notice her behavior change. She went from, saying map. She was obsessed with Dora the Explorer, Mama, Dada. She was saying it all. Good girl, say map. Hit all of her milestones up to that point. She walked at 1. She was eating solid. She just, she looked really good. And then I just remember her, it felt almost overnight or very quickly where her demeanor just changed. She went from this super happy baby to crying and tantruming, just frustrated all the time. And I remember saying to my mom one day during one of these tantrums, like, where did my happy baby go? But I didn't think anything past it. I think I was kind of not ready to fathom that something could be off, even though maybe the telltale signs were there. Cheerios? One Cheerios, okay. Honey, you gotta get dressed. You gotta get dressed, honey. Come on, time to get dressed. She started to lose the words that she had gained. She wasn't saying mama anymore. She wasn't saying map. She just seemed really disconnected from us. instead of playing with her toys, she would take them, dump them all out of her toy box, and just start twisting them around her hands aimlessly with no intended purpose. Really kind of in denial about it. And then I remember one day we were in the middle of a store, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, she just like started like screaming and yelling like somebody had slapped her. I don't even know what the problem was, and I was so mortified. I didn't even know what to do. I was so scared. I literally just left the half full cart in the store, picked her up, and just ran out of there. I never went to that store again. I just didn't even know what to think. And that was probably the first time it really kind of stung for me that maybe something is wrong. They diagnosed her. They didn't diagnose her right away. They said that she was too young for a diagnosis. I didn't even know what they meant when they said that. I was like, diagnosed with what? I just had no idea what they were talking about. And then they said, we'll come back in if you're not seeing progress. And I said, okay, and a couple months later, I'm watching these speech therapists play with her on the floor. I'm not seeing any progress. It felt like she was getting a little worse. And then we went for our 2-year-old wellness visit, and the doctor said that she was behind if she wasn't using 20 words with intent. And that was probably just the knife to my heart at that point. I really couldn't deny that something was up with her anymore. So then I called the county back in, and then she was diagnosed on the spectrum. And I remember that day, and it was worst days of my life. It was my darkest hour. I could easily say that. As a mother, as a woman, as just a human being, it was probably one of the hardest times I had ever gone through. And I remember just being I went from being so happy with God, so thankful, to being so pissed at him for doing this to her and wrecking this beautiful gift he had given me. And for a while there, I struggled. I struggled to figure out what this meant, or what we were going to do, or how this was going to define her. All those dreams I had for her future were just completely shattered, and I had no idea what was going to happen next. And I went from just hopeful to just complete blank when I thought about the future. One night I was thinking, I'm going to die one day, and who's going to care for her like her mother? And something about that thought just snapped me out of my depression and my anger and my fear and said, listen, we got to get to work here. I promised that when she was born, I was going to be the best mother I could be to her. And that promise hasn't changed. In fact, she needs me more now than ever, not less. She needs me now more than ever. And I didn't know at the time what we were capable of, or what having those changes, that mindset shift for me was going to do. But I wanted to know that at the end of every night, I could look myself in the mirror with confidence and say, did you do everything you could, Michelle, to give her the best possible life? And if the answer was yes, then that was a good day. And I wanted the answer to be yes, 100%. And no matter where the cards fell, I know I could leave this earth saying I gave her everything I had, no regrets. And as I've navigated this world with her and walked away that day after having that thought, I really just grabbed the bull by the horns. I became her fiercest advocate. I'm not a special education master's degree teacher. I never had any formal training in ABA, but I knew that I was going to learn whatever I needed to learn to be really strong for her. And Juliana lost all of her language.
Cheerios? You don't want Cheerios? Okay.
She was nonverbal when she was diagnosed.
Show me what you want. Okay. What's up?
We taught her sign language.
Show me. Juliana, show me. Good girl.
Then she went from sign language to word approximations.
What? Okay, then give us confidence.
Then she started to speak.
Say, I did it.
She went from the most restrictive preschool environment. She was in a 614, most restricted preschool, special education preschool environment.
Your name is Diana. Good morning.
She is almost 8 years old. She's in a second grade class in a gen ed school, integrated class with typical peers. She speaks beautifully now.
What did you like about control in school?
I like when they made like copies, and I like the thing that like touch the paper.
She has a personality. She has conversation skills. There's still things that we need to work on, but for the most part, her future went from black to now having possibilities. And none of that could have happened had I not kind of gotten out of my own way and really hit the ground running and started to take action for her. And I can't say that I can do that for every parent I coach, but what I can tell them is I will have them feeling like I did, looking myself in the mirror, you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I was everything I could be for her today. I have no regrets. And whatever happens, it happens. It's really for us as parents to know we fulfilled the duty that we promised when we had these children, which was the best versions of ourselves to live to raise these children. I've helped now hundreds of mothers, coach them one-on-one to do the same things I did, to help them to be strong, to help them to craft plans where we're seeing constant progress. This is what I want to do. I want to give you the chance that Juliana's had. I want to give you every opportunity to give your child that happiness.
Dear Juliana, today you are with a day full of happiness. Friends with friends. Friends with memories to forget. And great times. I hope you remember it. Happy birthday, love, Jane.
Oh, I love that video so much. Every time I watch it, just fills me with joy. I love a happy ending. I'm a sucker for a happy ending. And you guys could have that same kind of happy ending too. Like Michelle said, we can't guarantee the same results for everybody, but we can guarantee that we can help shift that mindset and kind of help you get out of your own way and give you strategies and support along the way and a community. And that way, like Michelle said, you could look yourself in the mirror every day and say, I gave 100% today. And I will do that again tomorrow. So let's talk about how to do that. Let's talk about what we call the big three. What every child needs to have a chance at a life of independence. We need three pillars. We need communication, we need problem behavior at near or zero levels, and we need potty training. Let's talk a little bit about reducing aggressive problem behavior, which can be a big issue for a lot of families. I consider aggressive problem behavior one of the most important foundational skills to tackle because it could be so disruptive to the quality of life for the child, family, caregivers, etc. So when I'm working with a family that's dealing with these behaviors, I kind of tackle it like a member of the bomb squad. So this bomb squad mentality is first, approach carefully and inspect. Next step, disarm. After that, dismantle of the explosive behavior. So let's talk about that a little bit, okay? With step one, slowly and carefully approach and inspect. Okay, what do we mean by that? So studies show that 68% of children and teenagers with autism had been aggressive to a caregiver, and almost half, 49%, had been aggressive to someone else at some point. More than half of the youth studied were currently having mild to severe aggressive behavior, and excessive tantruming meltdowns are linked to autism spectrum disorders. Okay, so let's talk about inspecting, observing the behavior. MEETS is an acronym for the reasons unwanted behaviors occur in our children with autism. So let's look at that acronym, shall we? M stands for medical. They might be in physical pain or discomfort or be ill or hurt in some way. E is for escape or avoidance, getting away or out of an unwanted activity. A is for attention seeking, gaining attention, whether positive attention or negative attention, it's still attention. T is for tangibles, wanting access to a physical object or activity. And S, sensory seeking, doing things because they feel good. They feel good, taste good, smell good, look good, sound good. They feel good in motion. They give me balance and movement throughout and my perception in space. These are the reasons why behavior happens, okay? So we can't give you a guide that says, when a child hits, do this. Or if a child is scratching themselves, do this. But we can come up with a plan that says, if your child's engaged in inappropriate escape behavior, try this. If they're doing inappropriate attention-seeking behavior, try this. So once we know the reason why the behavior is happening, we then know what to do about it. Step 2, disarm prevention protocol. So let's talk about this a little bit. We want to diffuse the bomb before it blows. Okay, so this is like modifying the antecedents, the cues, the triggers. We want to disarm the trigger to the bomb. We want to disarm the trigger to this explosive behavior. We want to spend 95% of our time preventing problem behaviors and modifying demands to prevent aggression and other problem behaviors from happening. We want to use that prior knowledge about behaviors that were possible before trying to find something new. So wherever you can, you want to use the prior knowledge about the behaviors in order to give you information about what's going on right now. We want to look to see where the behaviors don't occur, which sometimes can give us all the information we need, and try to incorporate more of those kinds of activities. And we want to focus heavily on pairing and manding. So pairing is basically associating ourselves with all good things, with everything that the child wants, with fun, with preferred activities, preferred items of interest, etc. And we want to focus on manding, which is asking for what you want. Even if you are nonverbal, you can mand, okay? Communication is not just verbal language. Communication is facial expressions, body language, pointing, gesturing, speaking, approximating, signing, writing, typing. All of these things are manding. So we can teach you using a picture, right? Using a visual. All of these things are ways for your child to communicate. So if they can ask for something they want, you're going to see in and of itself a significant reduction in that problem behavior, which is usually out of frustration of having something to say and not being able to say it, especially when you need to get your needs met. So what causes problem behavior, like those functions we were talking about? So the first thing you need to know are some functional assessment strategies. The first step is to take the problem behavior and connect it to the function it provides from the list on the previous slide. Once that's been established, in order to address or modify maladaptive behavior, we need 3 components. Proactive strategies. How do we make it less likely that the maladaptive is going to happen in the first place? Reactive strategies. What do we do if, even though we were proactive, the behavior happens anyway? Because it's going to happen. Even if you're proactive, at some point or another, the behavior is still going to happen again. So what do I do when it does happen? And functionally equivalent replacement behaviors, otherwise known as FERBs. What do we want to teach the child to do in place of the maladaptive behavior that gets the same payoff as the inappropriate behavior did? So if the inappropriate behavior was used to gain attention, what appropriate way can we teach the child to gain attention? If the maladaptive behavior was being used to escape something, how can we teach the child to ask for a break or stop an aversive stimulus or remove themselves from the situation, etc.? So let's talk about what to do when we see problem behavior in terms of the functions, right? let's talk about those proactive strategies, the bomb squad mom method. How can we prevent the behavior from happening in the first place, right? We want to be proactive. We want to spend 95% of our time preventing this behavior from happening, right? How do we do that? We provide frequent opportunities to choose rewards to work for on a point system or a token system, right? So you can present 2 items in front of your child and see which ones they reach for. You could put a selection of items on a table and see which one your child reaches for. You can give them a selection of pictures representing items or activities, see which one they point to. You can have them ask for an item or activity. You can have a written list. Again, depending on what your child understands, what their skills are at this point in time, we want to give them a way to indicate what it is they want to work for. What are they motivated by? And we want to also get that on a point or a token system. So we don't, initially, when you're first teaching something new, you have to reinforce every single time it happens. But what if the only thing your child wants is, say, the iPad? That's a lot harder to give after every single opportunity that your child does something good than, say, a piece of a potato chip or an M&M. It's a lot easier to give one little tiny piece of an edible after every positive response you see than if you had to stop and engage in an activity like an app or a game or a puzzle or a book. So if you're going to get a bigger reward, there has to be more of an effort, right? This has to be proportional. It has to balance out. So if I'm going to give you a bigger reward, you need to do more work for that. But when you're first learning how to do something new, you might need constant feedback as to whether or not what you just did was the right thing or the wrong thing. So if I have a token board, which could just be a piece of paper with 5 circles on it, and every time I give you a direction or I model something for you to imitate, every time you do it, I give you a check or a smiley face or a star in that circle. And once you fill all 5 circles, then you get access to the game or the app or the puzzle or the book that you wanted. Because since the reward is going to take a little bit of time, you need a little bit of time to work for that. So you want to build that in as quickly as possible. You want to provide a lot of attention whenever you see your child doing the right thing. We also call that catch them being good, in case you've heard it put that way. You want to provide more points and tokens during more difficult activities than during easier activities, because as I just mentioned, it has to balance out, right? That scale has to balance. So if it's a harder activity, then it needs to be a bigger payoff. If it's an easier activity, then I can give less of a payoff, okay? So again, if you had to work harder, you would expect a bigger payoff than if you had to only do a little bit of effort, then you can tolerate less of a payoff. So we want to make sure that's always proportional. Remind your child to use verbal statements to mediate their emotions, or signs or gestures or pointing to a picture, whatever your communication system happens to be, using an augmentative device, whatever it is. We want them to use their words, whatever their words happen to be, whether it's a sign, a picture, a button on a device, or through their mouth. Use your words to mediate your emotions. You want to prompt the child to ask for a break or ask for help if you see signs that indicate that they might need one at the first signs. Now is not the time to push, right? Now is the time that we're trying to be proactive. We're trying to prevent the behavior from happening. So we don't want to push for extra. We want to make sure that as soon as we see the child starting to get frustrated or starting to need a break, they're sitting too long, they're getting a little fidgety, immediately prompt them to ask for a break. We want to teach them as quickly as possible to use the replacement behavior. So there's no frustration buildup, no opportunity to have to use that maladaptive behavior instead. You're going to right away use something that's going to work for you. So we want to use it as early as possible, because the more that frustration builds, the more the momentum, the bigger it gets. It's got to go somewhere, right? So if we can nip it in the bud and we can squash it while it's small, it's a lot easier to blow out a match than a forest fire, right? So if we could squash it while it's still a little tiny ember, then before it's a roaring fire, we're going to be a lot more successful. Okay, so let's continue about what we do when we see problem behavior in terms of reactive strategies. What do we do when the behavior happens anyway, right? Because even the best proactive strategies are not going to work 100% of the time. There are going to be times where you're not going to be perfect, or your child is going to be frustrated, or your timing is going to be off, or you're going to be distracted, or your child's going to be tired or hungry, or something is going to happen and the behavior is going to happen. So you need a strategy so everybody handles the behavior the same way. Consistency is key. We're trying to teach your child rules. So if we're consistent, the rules are always the same, it's easier to figure them out. But if the rules are always different, then as soon as your child thinks they figured them out and the rules change, well, I would give up too and just have a tantrum. So let's discuss some reactive strategies. The strategy we use depends not on the behavior itself, right? So it's not like he hit, so you do this, or she was stimming, therefore we do this, or they were eloping, therefore we do this. It's why the behavior happened. Once you determine why the behavior is happening, you can implement the correct strategy. So let's talk about FERBs. Let's talk about those functionally equivalent replacement behaviors. Okay, replacement behavior, what your child is going to do in the place of, instead of the maladaptive behavior you're trying to get rid of. Functionally equivalent just means it's giving an equivalent function. It's giving the same payoff. They're getting the same payoff from tapping you on the arm and getting your attention than they got from dropping on the floor and screaming their head off. So the payoff is the same. And it's an appropriate behavior that they can use in place of the maladaptive behavior you're trying to get rid of. That's what functionally equivalent replacement behavior means. So it has to serve the same function as the aggressive behavior. So if they were aggressive because they wanted a tangible object or activity and you ignore them, that's not going to get rid of the behavior. That's not an appropriate intervention. That's not functionally equivalent, right? If they're doing something because they want a tangible and you're addressing attention, it's a disconnect, right? They don't care about attention right now. They want the iPad, or they want the puzzle, or they want the cookie, right? So you have to give them a way to mediate what they want appropriately to get that same payoff. If the replacement behavior does not serve the same function, your behavior is not going to last. You're not going to see a change over time. And eventually they're just going to have a new maladaptive behavior, inappropriate behavior pop up, because they still want that toy. They still want your attention. They still want to get out of doing something, or it still feels good. And they don't know what to do in place of that, right? They want your attention, but they haven't learned how to ask for it. They want to get out of doing something, but they don't know another way to do it other than acting out. So the replacement behavior has to match the same function as the inappropriate behavior. Okay, step 3, deactivate the explosive problem behavior. Let's talk about that a little bit, okay? We also believe that another reason why problem behavior can occur is that the demands are too high and the reinforcement is too low, okay? It's our job as parents and as people working with children to move that scale down so the demands are lower and the reinforcement gets higher. So initially it should be, you do a little bit of what I want you to do, and you get to do a lot of what you want to do. And then over time, I'm going to increase what I want you to do and slowly decrease the what you want to do part. So eventually you're doing more of what I want you to do for a little bit of what you want to do, or like I said, proportional. This doesn't mean that we can't ever increase demands, but we have to scale back so the aggression is under control first. Like I said before, this is not the time to push. We're diffusing a bomb here. Okay, we've got a very delicate situation in front of us. It's not the time to be pushing for gains. This is the time to be building skills, to be teaching how to calm down, how to de-escalate the situation. Later, we build skills. Once your child is using that functionally equivalent replacement behavior, once they're raising their hands to get your attention, or saying ma, or tapping you on the arm, or handing you a peck to get your attention, or using a break card instead of having a meltdown, when they're doing that more than they're doing the replacement behavior, and that aggression is at near zero levels, or has gone away all completely, then we can work on building. Then we can, now they've got a strategy for when they do feel frustrated, they can let us know, this is too much, I need a break. Or I need a little bit of, I need an acknowledgement for the effort I'm putting in right now, or I need access to that item or activity if you want me to continue, right? So we need to teach them how to mediate that. We have to teach them that if you want to get out of something, how do you do that appropriately? So that when we are pushing for that skill, like when we are pushing to make some gains, now we're going to ask your child to do more than what they're used to doing. It's more likely that they might get frustrated when you're teaching them something new, or you're raising the bar, making something a little bit harder. So they have to learn how to handle that frustration first before we push and frustrate them. Otherwise, that's kind of not fair, right? So first, we teach the kids how to deal with frustration, what to do when you are feeling frustrated, or when you do want that attention, or when you do want that item or activity. Then, once that behavior is gone and they're using that appropriate way of getting their needs met, or getting through that, then we can start to push, so that when they do experience any frustration with this new thing that we're teaching them, they have a way to deal with it appropriately. They don't have to result to getting physical with themselves or other people. Reinforcement is anything that is added or removed that increases the likelihood that the behavior will happen again in the future. Something, and because we gave them something, that behavior is more likely to occur under similar conditions in the future. Negative, like social praise, giving the child a toy, giving the child edibles, so that the behavior happens again, right? So I asked you to come here, and you came here, and I give you a big smile and a big hug, so that the next time I asked you to come here, you're more likely to come here again. That's positive reinforcement. Or I said, do this, and you did this, and I gave you a cookie, so that the next time I model something and say, do this, the child is more likely to imitate with point-to-point correspondence the motor movements that I was just showing them. Negative reinforcement is taking something away in order to increase the likelihood that that behavior is going to happen. Reinforcement always increases behavior. So an example of negative reinforcement would be lowering demand, lowering a volume in the environment. Some practical examples. You get into your car, you sit down, you get that ding, 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 ding until you buckle your seatbelt. That ding, ding, ding is supposed to be annoying, right? You're not supposed to want that noise to be on. When you buckle your belt, the noise goes away. The noise is removed, right? Because they're trying to get you to buckle your belt. So buckling your belt is the behavior that's increased. When you get in your car, you're more likely to buckle your seatbelt. And if you forget, that annoying noise is going to go on, and the only way to get rid of that noise is to, guess what? Buckle your seatbelt. That's negative reinforcement, okay? The same way, if your child asks for something and you say no, and they start crying, and then you give it to them and they stop crying, your behavior was just negatively reinforced, right? You gave them something to take away the cry. The crying stopped, right? So you are more likely to give in to them in the future when they tantrum in order to get rid of that noise. And they know that. And that builds a history of teaching them that acting out will frustrate mom or dad and will get us to give in to you, which is why it's important for you to know these strategies, because that's not what we want. We want you teaching them, not them teaching you. So let's talk about stacking wins in the child's favor, okay? So wins, positive reinforcement, should be happening 3 times as much as negative attention, okay? So what does that mean? Reinforcing appropriate behaviors by rewarding them, taking note of them, whether it's praise, whether it's giving them a check or a sticker or a star or a piece of cookie or an M&M or a high five or a good job or whatever is motivating to them, depending on how difficult that task is. Refusing to give in to problem behavior by giving your child what they want through inappropriate behavior. They only get what they want from appropriate behavior. Using visual supports to communicate rules, starting with small achievable goals to encourage success, right? So let's talk about treating aggression as a package deal. There is no one single solution to the problem. Aggression needs to be treated as a package of many interventions. You want to modify antecedents and consequences, right? So you want to modify the things that happen right before and right after the behavior to help diffuse the behavior from occurring. So you want to change the triggers so that it's less likely that the behavior is going to happen in response to that trigger, right? Like I hit your knee with the hammer and your foot kicks out. We want to take away that hammer so it doesn't hit it, it doesn't make your foot kick out, okay? So we want to modify the antecedents, the triggers for the behavior. And we want to modify the consequences. Whatever has been happening immediately after that behavior is making it more likely to occur in the future. So we have to change that. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If what was intuitive, what was instinctive worked, you wouldn't be listening to this presentation right now. You would have figured it all out instinctively, intuitively. This is not necessarily intuitive or instinctive. Once you learn the principles, it is. It's like common sense. It's so easy. It's so second nature. But initially, it's not. Your instinct, your child is crying. Your instinct is to help them, to stop them from crying, to comfort them. But behaviorally speaking, you might need to ignore that and to give them attention under other circumstances. So we have to show you how to modify those antecedents, modify those consequences, because when you do that, you see a difference in the behavior. These are the things that are cueing and maintaining the behavior. So if we change those things, the supports, it's like a pillar on each side of the behavior. And if we take them away, there's nothing to support the behavior and it just falls away. We want to increase reinforcement. So the child is contacting reinforcement more frequently. So when we're breaking things into small achievable goals, it's more likely that your child will be successful with a baby step than with a giant leap. We want to decrease demands, which can increase the future, right? So if your child is already at the verge of having a tantrum, it's like a computer that's getting ready to crash. Don't start giving it more commands and more things to do. It's definitely going to crash, right? We want to reduce demands, reduce data, reduce input. So at that point in time, because once you place a demand, you have to follow through on it, because you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. So if you place a demand and the demand is too big, well, you might have to deal with the tantrum, but it's kind of on you because you placed too big of a demand at that moment. You have to really, like I said, this is a bomb diffusing methodology here. You have to watch what's going on, assess, and intervene accordingly. So if your child is on the verge of blowing, that's not the time to maintain your level, right? So you want to start giving demands that are easy for your child to follow, because once you give a demand, you have to follow through. So if I was just going to give that child a moderate or difficult demand, I'm no longer going to do that because they're on the verge. Their capacity, when you're upset, you're not thinking clearly. So their capacity to be rational is already reduced. So I want to give them easy, simple things to do that I've seen them be successful with before, so they don't have to think about it as much because their heads are already clouded by being frustrated and upset over the situation, whatever it might be, whether they want the toy, they want your attention, they want to get out of something, they're not feeling well, or it's a sensory thing. So the first thing we want to do is give demands that we can follow through with, simple, to decrease those demands. So I'm not going to give a complicated 3-step direction. I might give 3 separate single-step directions. So give one direction, let the child follow it, give the next part, let them follow it, reinforce that, and then give the final part, let them follow it, reinforce that. Extinction. We want to withhold reinforcement for aggression by differentially reinforcing replacement behaviors. So again, that payoff to behavior proportion. So I don't want to reinforce anything I don't want to see again. I do want to reinforce heavily any new behavior or a more appropriate behavior. So if my child is usually going to tantrum over this, and this time they didn't tantrum, but they pointed to something that they wanted, I want to give a lot of reinforcement to the pointing because that's big, that's new, that's different than tantruming. So I want to give a lot of reinforcement for that. And I don't want to give any reinforcement for the maladaptive behavior. It's like a circuit we have to cut off. That switch no longer works, so you're going to stop using it, right? You ever have one of those switches in your house that you don't know what it's to, and for a while you're flipping the light switch on and off, and you're going around the house to see if anything's turning on or turning off, and after a while you just stop using that switch because you just couldn't figure out which outlet it turned on and off? It's the same thing. We want to turn that switch off so your child stops using it. So if they were using aggression to get your attention, you can no longer give them attention for aggression, okay? You have to give them attention for being appropriate. You can keep them safe, but you're not going to give them attention. So no eye contact, no talking, no calming, no comforting, just keeping you safe until you're appropriate. Once you stopped aggressing and you are appropriate, then I can really give you a lot of attention and make that really clear and distinctive. When you're acting out, I'm helping you, but I'm not looking directly at you. I'm looking at you from the corner of my eye. I'm not talking to you. I'm just doing what I need to do in order to keep you safe. And as soon as you're calm, that's where you get a lot of attention and over dramatic attention and big, big bells and whistles. That way they can see the difference. So if you're doing maladaptive behavior to get out of a task, I'm not going to now say you don't have to complete that task. That task is not going to go away until you complete it. So whether it's completing it now or completing it an hour from now, it's not going away until you get it done. And nothing else fun is going to happen until you get it done. Okay. You might only do one little tiny piece of it, decrease demands. So if I was going to have you sit down and do a whole handwriting tracing sheet, and you're like on the verge of a tantrum, I might have you trace one thing and be done, take a break. Come back, trace one more thing, be done, take a break. Come back and do it when you're in a better state of mind. Verbs, those functionally equivalent replacement behaviors. And initially we're going to have to prompt those because your child is more used to using these other things that have been working. So we're no longer going to pay attention to hitting, but when your child is trying to hit you to get your attention, you're going to ignore your child, but you might model, excuse me, mom, ma, da, okay? Or you might point to the picture, or you might use the sign, right? So you're going to model whatever it is you want your child to use. And then as soon as they use it, boom, that's where you really over dramatically pay attention and respond to them. If they're doing something to get out of doing something, they have to touch a break card. They have to say, gesture stop. They have to say, I want a break. I can't do this. I've had enough. Can I take a break? Can I have 5 minutes? Whatever your child's vocal ability or communicative ability is, we want to give them a way to ask for a break. So again, if they're hitting because they want to get out of something, I'm not going to take this paper away. I'm not going to take these pictures away, but I am going to point to the break card. And if the child imitates and points to the break card, I'm going to say, oh, you want a break? Let me take this away from you. Come on, you can have a break now. Okay. If they're looking for an item or activity and they're hitting because they want that toy or that iPad or whatever it happens to be, you're not getting it through the hitting. But now I'm going to model a request. I'm going to say, iPad, please, puzzle, please, or I'm going to sign it, or I'm going to point to the picture of it. I'm going to write it down or type it out. However you want your child to communicate that to you, the easiest way in that moment, because they're already upset, I'm going to give them that way to do it. And I'm going to reinforce that immediately. So you're going to have to prompt those functionally equivalent replacement behaviors, and as soon as your child uses them, reinforce them instantly. And data. We want to write down what happens every time we do this, so we can see over time, is this behavior getting better? Is it staying the same, or is it getting worse? If it's getting better, that tells me what we're doing is working and I should keep doing it. If it's not getting better, or if it's getting worse, then I have to change what I'm doing. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about, oh, sorry, I lost my place on my pages here. Monitoring our data in order to determine progress. This is one of the things that makes ABA so successful. Data helps determine if these behaviors are decreasing and if the replacement behaviors are increasing. But you say, Melissa, I will know if my child's no longer hitting me. And yes, you will see the difference between your child hitting you and your child not hitting you. However, there's no way for you to tell without writing it down the difference between something happening 53% of the time, 45% of the time, 58% of the time, 46% of the time, 54% of the time. There's no way for you to just tell the difference on that. And if you're doing this for a period of time, you're not going to remember a week ago when I said blank, he responded with aggression and I responded this way, if there's been 100 instances between then and now. So writing everything down gives us an objective way to go back and look and figure out the pattern and to see if what we're doing is working. Because if we're writing it down, we can see the difference between 46% and 52% and 48% and 46% because it's right there in front of us. If the data has not changed, we have to shake things up, right? We're not going to continue doing something that doesn't work over and over and over and over and over again and expecting it to suddenly magically work. If it's not working, it's not working. We have to change what we're doing. Maybe one or more of the interventions could just be modified. Maybe we could just add something. Maybe we have to stop something. Maybe we have to just tweak it a little bit, right? So we don't want to stop using an intervention that could be successful if we stuck with it. And we don't want to keep using something that's not working because your child does not have time to waste. So if we collect data, we can go right at your child's pace and we can make sure that we're only using things that are really working for them. Even the best BCBAs have to analyze and modify interventions for their clients all the time. Like all we're doing is guessing, right? Based on the data I'm collecting and what I'm seeing clinically, I'm guessing that this is an escape behavior. And I'm guessing that this intervention is going to help this behavior. But I don't know that until I actually try it with the child, because every child and every situation is different. So I can come up with the best textbook intervention, right? All the experts would agree, this is what to do for this particular situation. Well, the child hasn't read that book, and it may not work for that child under those circumstances with their learning history. So The only way to know if this is going to work for your child is to try it and see if it actually works. And if it doesn't work, I still rely on the principles of behavior. I just change the intervention. I figure out what about this particular strategy is working and what about it isn't working. Can we just modify it to make it work? Can we add or change something a little bit? Or do we have to scrap it all and start from scratch? Remember, Rome was not built in a day, so it does take some time, and that's okay. These behaviors, the longer a behavior is happening, the longer it can take to stop a habit, right? Like you're doing something for a longer period of time, it's harder to stop than if you're doing something for a shorter period of time. It's that momentum, right? But it doesn't mean it won't stop. It just means it might take a little bit more effort to get there if it's happening for a longer time. So the sooner we do this, the better. The more consistently, the better. Finally, I find it helpful to view all of these strategies as more like laying bricks for a building than shooting silver bullets or sprinkling magic dust, right? You have to lay the foundation and carefully plan the next steps. With some focused and deliberate work, you can build something beautiful. But if you don't have a solid foundation and you're building on it, eventually it's going to fall through, right? So we can't leave these big gaping holes. We have to build a strong, solid foundation upon which other things can rest securely. And then we can build and build and build from there. But again, if the foundation isn't solid, as soon as we try and build a couple of layers on top of it, it's going to collapse. So let's take a look at where we're at right now. What has otherwise been known as the trifecta of suffering. Disbelief in yourself as a parent to help your child, disbelief that anything is actually going to change, a disbelief in your child because thoughts about the diagnosis, right? All of these things intersect and you find yourself in the middle. As the parent, I don't know how to help them. I'm not equipped for this. In your child, they don't understand or they'll never get this. Right? And in the process of the program, your doubts say, yeah, right, this isn't going to work. Too good to be true. My child's too severe. We've tried this, we've done that. It's just not going to work. This all equals no results. That's holding you and your baby back, right? You have to look at things from a different perspective, right? Things are all about perspective. If you're in front of a painting, and you stand too close to it, you'll see all the detail really clearly, but you won't be able to see the big picture. And if you stand too far back, you can see the whole picture, but you lose all the detail. You have to be at the perfect perspective to appreciate the entire work of art. So that's what we're here to help with, is getting you to that appropriate perspective so you can see exactly what you and your child need. So maybe you're thinking, I should do this by myself. Could you leave today, take this recording and do it alone? Well, you could, but what would it be like to do this with a team of experts that are there to help guide you every step of the way and guide you to guaranteed results? There's a study done that autism parents experience trauma similar to that of combat soldiers. Asking for help is not a weakness. It's a gift to give yourself. And like they tell you, you have to put your oxygen mask on first before you put it and help your child or those that are with you. It's the same thing here. If you don't take care of yourself, if you don't give yourself some support, you're not going to be able to have the capacity to help your child. And I'm sorry, but you're the linchpin in this whole thing. We need you to be able to do this. And you might need some help in order to be able to do this. And that's what we're here for. So if you decide to go it alone, ask yourself, when life is hard, throwing us a curveball and things don't go as planned with potty training or teaching communication, or I have family issues, or I change jobs, have a new baby, move, am I strong enough to do this and get myself motivated to get back on track? Or am I going to half-ass the process, talk like an asshole to myself about how I should be doing this better or differently for my kid, which results in little to no progress. You kind of talk yourself out of it, right? And you end up quitting. Well, with our 3-month group coaching program, there are guaranteed results. And this is what you get when you join. You get self-study courses, our Champions Masterclass, courses on the big 3 that we talked about before: communication, problem behavior to near zero or zero levels, and potty training, and other autism-related topics. You get 3 weekly live group coaching calls, learn from the experts. So 3 calls a week, you get experts doing presentations and answering questions. Michelle, the jack of all trades and a craft, and she will help you craft a personalized plan for your baby. Stella, our mindset coach, to help keep your mindset in a place where you stay determined to help your baby. BCBAs like Armando, Stacy, and myself to learn how to get your child to the big 3 with effective ABA strategies that you can do at home with them. We also have monthly specialist calls with a registered dietitian and a speech language pathologist. So 3 group coaching calls a week and monthly specialist calls with 2 specialists. You also get access to a private Facebook community where you never feel alone again. You post what you need and we respond right away. You get weekly newsletter for scheduled calls, and all courses and call recordings are located in your membership portal, which you will have lifetime access to. So you can go back and review strategies anytime you need. So 1, education, our self-study course, Access for Life. This is all about you, getting you into champion mode, building your capacity to be able to do these things for your child. It's all about your child, getting them into forward momentum, keeping them there. No more regression. Number 2, coaching, our 3 weekly Zoom group live coaching with our wonderful staff. Coach Michelle, your one-stop shop for all your needs. Mindset coach, your built-in therapist for the next 3 months, Stella. Your BCBA calls, where you learn the tools to effectively help your child from our BCBAs below, and our monthly coaching call with the registered dietitian and speech language pathologist, Greer and Deanna. This is our team, and this is what you get with our 3-month program. Community, our 3rd pillar. Our private Facebook group just for CFOC students where no questions go unanswered from our team. You're in a group of other parents in the program and we monitor this group 24/7. You can have your questions answered in between calls because support is truly our North Star. Every child on the spectrum is unique, and your program should be flexible and bend enough to meet that uniqueness with personalized strategies. Learn that potty training is 1,000% possible. Your child doesn't need to be verbal or mild on the spectrum. You'll feel confident as a parent, like you were before the diagnosis came, because you will be fluent in their language and behavior. You will start to reconnect to your child because communication is finally in place. We're going to get to the root level of your child's problem behaviors and treat it, not just treat the symptom. We're going to figure out the cause from the root so these behaviors go to zero. We're going to teach you how to live your life again, how to show up for an IEP meeting, a holiday party, plan a vacation, and just be a family. When life happens, we can help get you back on track. If a regression happens, we'll tell you exactly how to handle it. We're going to learn from trial and error rather than quitting on our kids. The only true fail is not to do it, is to quit. We're going to teach you how to build that champion mindset so you no longer have to worry about autism every minute of every day and you'll get your independence back too. And we guarantee results. So for today only, you can book a free coaching call to learn more. A free coaching call. Click the link in the chat box. Go right up to the chat box, click it. There is a link there. This today only, book a free coaching call. Okay. Now, let's hear what some of our other members have had to say about their experience.
So I guess I wanted to start asking you, what were your biggest struggles prior to joining the program?
You know, I was going around and looking for organizations. I was looking for help.
So I started looking up online and I'm like, I really need somebody who's been through.
There's no access to any kind of services over here in Ireland. Googling stuff and trying to find something.
I joined because I have a 3-year-old autistic son, so I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what to do.
Everything seemed to be waitlisted or just not available. To break it down to him, I had to have somebody break it down to me.
And that really got me worried. It got my husband worried and thinking, okay, we need to speak to a PD.
I think my biggest struggle was understanding their potential. I actually didn't know, like I was kind of relying on just the speech therapist.
I came in just feeling very helpless, very confused.
What can I do now that I haven't already done? You know, what would be the harm? What can I lose?
Before participating, we weren't making as much progress. It was slow progress.
I believe that I found you on Instagram.
She is very turned off by a lot of doctors and therapists and things.
I went back and forth and I'm like, okay, she's going to start ABA therapy on this day, and I told them that was my #1 goal.
As everyone would be, I was a little skeptical because of how many times I have tried with Alexander.
On one end, I'm hearing, okay, she's, artistic and, you qualify for a lot of services. And when I go and try to inquire about, we can't service her.
All right, so now, I guess, where are you now? You and your child, now that you've joined the program?
They're doing really, really well. Doing really, really well. I think their ABA program here is wonderful. We got very lucky with that. One word here or there, what it was that he wanted, but not necessarily saying I want. It would be apple or this or that, and that has totally blossomed. And now following like what the BCBA said, which is starting really small.
Okay, so where I am now is where I kind of know that I'm in charge.
The changes in him in less than 2 months, I think I've been like 6 weeks, are miraculous. The behaviors are decreased. The stimming has decreased. The listening to directions has increased. The language has increased.
I just, set those goals for myself and cross them off and once I did that for me, turned my focus 100% and then I was able to get the work done.
You helped me formulate the confidence in myself to realize Henrik was ready to really go for it. I would not have gotten through it. It went so much better than I ever could have imagined.
I started listening to the tips from Michelle.
He's doing so much better. More eye contact for sure. We're working on talking, on saying some words.
Yeah, it went really well. Like the tips you guys gave me.
It doesn't seem like this big impossible thing.
I just been given something so precious.
He's more verbal, right direction, and I'm so happy to be part of this group.
We never in a million years thought that it would happen this early. He's making a lot more sounds. He's now at that point where he's no longer frustrated since you and all of the teachers have given me all of the ideas and the strategies.
We all want our children to succeed, and it's just been wonderful.
Would you recommend our program to any moms or dads that are going through this right now?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I would definitely refer anyone to this.
Yes, definitely. You guys need to do this program. It'll change you guys and your child's life tremendously.
100%. I do recommend it. You learn something new.
I would definitely suggest to go through this program for at least first 4 to 6 months.
This program has allowed that, and I'm really grateful for that.
take this course, you know, do the one-on-ones, listen and absorb everything that this team has to offer.
You guys have a gift, and you're sharing it, and that's amazing.
So I will recommend you to anybody, whoever is out there.
It's been really great. It's been really great. And
This is going to help you. You can learn through other parents' experiences.
Just do it. Don't hold back. Just go all in with your daughter or your son, and I promise you will definitely see results.
All right, guys. Well, we
so I
have
guess I want
we have made it to Q&A. Hooray. Okay, so first, let me take a quick look in our Q&A box here. It says I tried to submit a question with the sheet, but I'm not sure I did it correctly. Okay, I will take a look at that. What treatment is available for aggressive condition? Well, David, we were talking about that throughout the presentation, so I do hope that some of those questions were answered through the presentation. The first step is to figure out why the aggressive behavior is happening, and we might do that by writing down what happens immediately before and immediately after the behavior so we can see a pattern. Then we want to put in place some proactive strategies, some things to try and prevent the behavior from happening, some prompts, some visuals, some strategies, breaking things down, fewer demands. We want to have some reactive strategies. So if it's escape behavior, I'm not going to remove demands for aggression, but I will remove demands if he or she asks for a break, points to a break card, signs for break, etc. So first, figure out what the function is, proactive strategies, reactive strategies, and then those functionally equivalent replacement behaviors. If he was doing this behavior to get out of something, how can he get out of something appropriately? And then I only let him get out of things by using that appropriate method. If it was for attention, how can he gain attention appropriately? And then how can, for tangibles, how can he gain access to tangibles appropriately? And if it's sensory, what are some other sensory appropriate ways to get that same sensory stimulation? So we want to find the equivalent appropriate behaviors to replace the maladaptive behavior, and we no longer want the maladaptive aggressive behavior to work. Let me just take a quick look at what you've posted in the chat, and then I'm going to open for hand raising and personal questions. So let's see in our chat box here. Let's see, I love how you could break this down. I'm so glad. Yes, the recording will be sent out so you can review this again. This is such a blessing. I'm so pleased to hear that. Click on the link in the chat box to book your complimentary call. And wonderful. So now I am going to go to asking for anybody who wants to raise their hand and ask a question. I am happy to answer a question live for anybody who has questions to ask. So let me go one at a time. And first, Maritza Sapita, if you want to unmute your mic, I am happy and at your disposal. Hi.
Hi, how are you? Thanks.
I am
Thanks
well.
for including me in your chat today.
My
In your
pleasure.
seminar. Thank you. My question
Thanks for
is,
coming.
so we're fairly new in this journey. So we're learning, trying to maneuver different, and we are starting the ABA hopefully soon.
Good.
So my question is, because of the behavior in school, one of the psychologists said you have to address obviously with the when there's bad behavior in school, and then versus having the bad behavior at home, and how that the both consequences have to, match the setting. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's hard when he's coming home and you're, giving them consequences for something that bad behavior that happened in school. So
Okay, so
we
my
tackle that.
opinion on that, first of all, Consequences have to be immediate in order to be effective. So if there's a negative behavior that's happening at school, there should be a consequence at school immediately, like an immediate consequence. Because if it doesn't happen immediately after the behavior, your child might not associate the consequence with the behavior that happened earlier in the day. So
Right.
I always try to give positive consequences for appropriate behavior. We always want to tell your child what they should be doing instead of what they should not be doing. So instead of not hitting, what can I teach them to do instead of hitting, right? So if their hands are in their pockets, they can't physically be hitting someone. So now I can direct him to do something and I can reinforce that. So I could direct the child, keep your hands in your pockets, and every few seconds that their hands are in their pockets, I can give them a token. And then after they get 10 tokens, I can give them access to something, right? Or I could give them something appropriate to do with their hands. Or if they're hitting because they're frustrated, I could teach them how to express that frustration in another way. So we always want to give them something that we can reward in order to replace the behavior we want to get rid of. So the first thing I would say is we have to get some positive consequences. We have to tell him what we want him to do instead of the behavior that he's doing. And he's got to have some immediate positive consequences for those replacement behaviors. Start there. I bet you see a decrease in those behaviors and an increase in the behavior you want to see right off the bat. Then anything that isn't taken care of through something like that like aggression or self-injury, if that's not enough for those behaviors, then we could put a secondary system in place. Like if you've used your words throughout the day and you've engaged in disruption less than twice, not only do you get the consequences at school, but when you come home, you get your favorite blank, right? So you can have a backup consequence at home to reinforce what's happening at school, but they have to have some immediate consequences for him to change his behavior in that environment.
Right. I get what you're saying. It makes so much sense like that, but it's kind of, you have to have the conversation with his para.
Yes.
Because and let her know that we can maybe try that. I never even thought about that. So that's enlightening. I mean,
teaching him something like just the absence of something is hard. Like if you're like, well, don't hit, technically he could kick and he really didn't hit. He listened, right? But that's not what we're looking for. We want to teach him what we want him to do instead of, well, go through every other possible thing you could possibly do. And when you happen to randomly hit something good, we'll let you know. No, that's wasting time. I'm going to tell you, use your words, keep your hands to yourself, hold on to this, use this break card if you start to get frustrated, like whatever I might put a sign up that says, if you need a break, say, help me, or at break time. So that way, when he starts to get a little upset, there's a prompt right there to remind him what to do appropriately. So that way he doesn't have to keep it all in his head when he's already upset.
Right. Wow. That's like, yeah, I get it.
Please go into the chat box and book that free consult call, because we could definitely give you a lot of strategies and things that you can say during that meeting that we can help you kind of prep you for. And if you think this program will be helpful for you, we can give you a lot of strategies like this along the way and help you advocate along the way as well.
Great. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. And I'm going to sign up as soon as we finish. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad to hear that. Oh, I look forward to talking to you more.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's see. Nakisha James, I see you have your hand raised. If you would like to unmute your mic, I am at your disposal and I am happy to answer your question. Nakisha, just unmute your mic and I am happy to speak with you. Nakisha, are you there? Oh, wait, wrong person. Nakisha, are you there? Nakisha James, going once, going twice. I'm going to go to Sky in a minute and then come back to you. Okay. Are you there, Nakisha?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hi, how are you? I can hear you.
Lovely, thank you. Yes. I have a 2-year-old. She's nonverbal. She has PT, OT, and speech therapy. I'm struggling with speech because it's via telehealth. I've been trying to get on in-person speech therapist, but I'm in Brooklyn, New York, and it's like next year impossible to find someone.
Right.
So during the sessions, when we sit, I'm having a challenge getting her to stay focused on task and to consistently do or stay engaged or show interest in stuff. Sometimes I allow her to self-direct, choose what she wants, and then try to find ways of, making it, getting her to be engaged. And I'm really, really struggling. I'm just wondering if you had any pointers that could help.
So are you looking for strategies during the speech session or outside of the speech
I
session?
mean, in and outside, because I guess I could apply what I learned in to outside, or
Okay.
what I learned outside, inside.
So I would recommend, so she's nonverbal right now. So I would recommend the biggest thing that we can do in order to teach our kids how to imitate what we're saying is we have to teach them how to imitate something they've never imitated before. That's called generalized imitation. So what I mean by that is if I wanted to teach a set of, say, do this and clap my hands, and do this and touch my head, and do this and wave, and do this and touch my nose, that's the teaching set. I'm going to prompt that. I'm going to correct it. I'm going to reward it. Like, we're going to have actual teaching sessions on that. But if I never taught do this and now I modeled it, and the child approximated it, like tried to do something like it, I know they understand the concept of imitation. So for a nonverbal child, to imitate something verbal is something they've never done before. So first, they have to be able to imitate novel gross motor movements, like big movements, fine motor movements, which are smaller movements, oral motor movements around the mouth. Then once they can do that and they can approximate something new, that's the most important piece there. Once you teach like 3 or 4 imitations and then you probe with something new, when you see those approximations for that non-taught example, that's where you can really start to use this to build language. So we could use what we call behavior momentum. What that means is, first, we start with rapid fire imitations of things that the child has imitated before. We're going to do that rapid fire 6, 7, 8, 9 in a row. And then we're suddenly going to throw in the verbal, the new, the novel imitation that we want. Based on the momentum of them following all those directions, they're going to be more likely to imitate. So as an example, if I did, do this, good, 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 do this. If they did all the motor things, they would be way more likely to imitate the than if I just did say okay, because they have this momentum of following. It's like Simon Says, right? Simon says, do this. Simon says, do this. Simon says, do this, do this. You do it from the momentum of just doing what you were saying, right? So once they can start to imitate something new, you can throw that verbal at the end of a string of other imitations, and they will be more likely to imitate that verbal at the end. So it's a process. I would highly recommend lots of gross motor stuff. Try during play. Try imitate her or him. Is it a daughter? Your daughter?
Her, yes.
Imitate. If she does something, mimic her. If she does a motor thing, you do a motor thing. If she makes a noise, you make a noise. Get her to get the concept that you're imitating her, and eventually it might become more of a back and forth, like a game.
Yes.
So I would use those strategies. Also, right before you're about to do any speech stuff, get her involved in some moving around, like gross motor stuff, because engaging in a lot of physical activity lights up the same part of the brain as you need to light up to emit speech. So if you
Right.
get her engaged in a lot of gross motor, like moving around play and then do speech, she'll be more likely to vocalize.
Okay. Okay.
So
Got it.
try those strategies and please book that free call so you can get more strategies.
Book for
And
10:30.
please do. That way we can keep helping you all the way along. And if you hit a little bit of a roadblock, we can help clear it for you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay, let's see, Sky. I see you have your hand raised. Sky, if you want to unmute your mic, I am happy to answer your question. Sky, are you there? You just have to unmute. Yeah, hi. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. What's up?
Well, I've kind of got a thing that's going on right now. We're getting ready to take my 3-year-old nonverbal to see Santa.
Okay.
And we are going to be actually baking cookies with Santa, taking pictures. It's going to be like an hour and a half long thing. Last year, we were only there for 15 minutes and he was basically just lost it. If that, it just like didn't want to have anything to do with it, didn't want a picture taken, all that good fun stuff. And I said, you somewhat answered my question. And in speaking with Stella yesterday, she told me to bring this topic up to you about what to do. I just wanted to see if you felt the same way. It's just to try to make it fun for him in his own way and make sure that you bring stuff, like his reinforcements, like his blanket, his shakes, his something that he likes to do just to keep it interactive. And I just wanted to know if there's anything else you felt that could be thrown into that to help make it a better experience for him.
When will you be doing this experience?
On Sunday.
On Sunday. Okay. So I would recommend putting together as soon as you can a little social story. All that has to be is like a couple of pages of like pictures and words that are going to tell him what to expect and what's expected of him. Simple, easy phrases. So like a picture of Santa on the front, we're going to see Santa. Next page, we're going to stand online. We're going to stand online together. There'll be kids in front of us and kids behind us. Next picture.
Well, it's different in that aspect. So sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
Actually it's like a photo session. So it's actually just going to be our family arriving at this gal's house. And
so
like I
whatever's
said,
going to be expected, you can put that into the story. So we're going to go to Santa. We're going to stand in front of a picture. We're all going to look at the camera. They're going to say 1, 2, 3, smile. We're going to get our picture taken, and then we're going to put in something fun, a reward or something that he's going to have, and just review this story with him a couple of times a day between now and Sunday. So it's predictable. It's not new. It's not weird. It's not unexpected. He'll know exactly what's expected of him. You just have to stand there, look at the camera, and smile. Anything that's new and unpredictable is scary, right? So knowing what to expect and it being like this fun little story with pictures that you're kind of going over with him and making like a fun little thing about it will help him like look forward to it. And then right before you go, review the story again. Definitely bring those reinforcers to make it fun for him and go in with a positive attitude that this is going to work. And if there's going to be any waiting time up front, go in like as close to getting the picture taken as possible. So there's as little downtime as possible up front. And then afterwards, lots and lots of reinforcement.
Okay.
Anything that can make it predictable will make it less scary.
Right. Okay. I can do that.
Enjoy and let us know how it goes.
I will do. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming tonight. I see I think we've got everybody's questions answered. I see Maritza Sakita has her hand raised. I think we just spoke a few minutes ago. If you have another question, I'd be happy to answer. Oh, let's see. Michelle Dunkley Clark, your hand is up. Please feel free to unmute your mic. I am at your disposal. Are you there, Michelle? You just have to unmute your microphone and then I'll be able to answer your question. Hello? Michelle Dunkley Clark. If you would like to just unmute your mic, I will be happy to answer anything that you have. I see a lot of thank yous popping up in our chat box. I am so pleased that you guys enjoyed tonight's presentation, and I want to thank you so much for coming. Let's see, maybe we should do our raffle, our spinning. What do you think, Jen? You want to do the raffle? All right, let's see. We're going to click, we're going to spin, we're going to see who gets our prize, our 30-minute with Michelle. All right, let's see. Let's spin it. All right, congratulations, Sarah. Sarah is our winner. Congratulations, Sarah. You won a 30-minute one-to-one session with Michelle. You are going to get so much out of that. Good for you. I'm really pleased. Thank you so much. Really glad that
another one again.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, she just left before the raffle, so we will do another one.
Oh, we'll do another one. Okay, let's do another one. Let's close this. And let's click away. All righty, Vanetta Spence Hamilton, you are our winner. You have won a 30-minute one-to-one session with Michelle. Congratulations. That is going to be wonderful. So I want to thank everybody so much for joining us tonight. I really enjoy doing these presentations for you. The video will be available. You will all get the guide for tonight. And thank you again. Please come back and join us for next workshops and our presentations. I really hope you guys all book calls so we can get to know you even better and get to know all your kids and can help you with anything you guys need. Thank you so much. And really, I appreciate your attention. I know it's hard to find time to go to workshops and to listen to presentations. So I really appreciate your attention. Thanks, everybody. And I'll see you next time. Have a great night. Bye.